The breaking point. The Galactic Council chamber thrummed with barely contained laughter as Ambassador Chen Mei-Lin stood at the speaker's podium. The crystalline walls of the Great Assembly Hall reflected the amused expressions of 100 different species, their various forms of mockery, creating a symphony of dismissal that would have broken a lesser diplomat. The human delegation requests, once again, that the Council reconsider the proposed Species Capability Index, Chen said, her voice steady despite the chittering from the insectoid section and the rumbling chuckles from the Ursine representatives. This classification system is not only discriminatory but fails to account for the diverse contributions each species makes to our galactic community. Premier Zalthus of the Etherian hegemony rose from his hovering throne, his translucent form pulsing with colors that indicated amusement. Ambassador Chen, while we appreciate humanity's enthusiasm, surely even you must recognize the biological limitations of your species. No natural telepathy, no enhanced strength, no ability to survive in extreme environments without mechanical assistance. The index merely acknowledges reality. Reality? Chen's fingers tightened on the podium's edges. The reality is that humans currently fill 43% of all technical maintenance positions, 61% of interspecies medical roles, and 78% of all hazardous material handling positions across Council space. We've created the translation matrices that allow all of us to communicate. We designed the jump gate stabilizers that prevent ships from being torn apart in hyperspace. Yet this index would classify us as a tertiary support species, with restricted voting rights? The Crystalline Collective's representative chimed in, their body resonating with harmonic frequencies. Numbers do not equate to importance, Ambassador. Any species can learn to turn a wrench or clean a waste processor. The index measures inherent capabilities, not learned skills. Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or optical organs of as many representatives as she could. She saw amusement, dismissal, and in some cases outright contempt. The Vorthak delegation was already placing bets on how long she would continue speaking. The Aquari had turned their attention to their personal data streams, considering the matter already decided. Then let me share some different numbers, Chen said, pulling up her holographic display. In the past decade, human innovations have increased agricultural yields in Council space by 34%. Human-designed medical procedures have eliminated 12 previously incurable diseases. Human negotiators have prevented 14 potential wars through diplomatic intervention. But perhaps most importantly, Ambassador, Premier Zalthus interrupted, his tone patronizing, we've reviewed humanity's contributions. They are adequate for a species of your limitations. The index isn't a punishment, it's simply an organizational tool. Surely you understand that some species are naturally suited for leadership, while others are better suited for support roles. The vote was called before Chen could respond. One by one, the representatives cast their ballots, the chamber's central hologram updating with each decision. Chen watched as the numbers climbed, 98 in favor, 2 against. The humans and their lone ally, the Epsilon Eridani, a small colony of artificial intelligences who remembered when humans had fought for their recognition as sentient beings. The measure passes, Zalthus announced triumphantly. The Species Capability Index will be implemented immediately. Humanity is hereby classified as a tertiary support species. Your voting power in the Council is reduced to advisory status only. We trust you will continue to serve the greater galactic community in the capacity for which you are best suited. Chen remained at the podium as the other representatives began to disperse, many chattering excitedly about the new hierarchical structure. She activated her private communication channel, speaking softly in Mandarin to ensure no translators would pick it up. Authorization Chen Mei-Lin 77 Alpha. Initiate Protocol Silent Storm. The response came immediately from Earth's Strategic Command. Protocol confirmed. The exodus begins. Over the next 72 hours, something unprecedented happened across the galaxy, though it would take weeks for anyone to notice its full scope. Humans began vanishing from their posts. Not dramatically, not with angry departures or grand statements. They simply finished their shifts, submitted polite resignation notices to automated systems, and disappeared into the vast network of human transport vessels that had been quietly positioned throughout Council space. On Kepler Station, Senior Technician Marcus Webb completed his final maintenance check on the life support systems, left detailed notes for his successor, and caught a transport ship that had arrived for routine cargo pickup. On the agricultural world of Demeter, Dr. Sarah Molina ensured her genetically modified crops would survive exactly 3 more harvests without human intervention, then departed on a family emergency. In the sprawling shipyards of the Vega system, an entire human engineering team finished installing a new drive core, left comprehensive documentation, and vanished during shift change. The first signs of trouble were dismissed as minor inconveniences. On Zalara Prime, a waste processing facility backed up when no one arrived to perform routine maintenance. Surely someone else would handle it. The Quellian ambassador's translator glitched during a crucial trade negotiation. Technology always had hiccups. A shipment of medical supplies arrived at the wrong station because the logistics coordinator position was vacant. These things happened. Ambassador Krextheta of the Morvac Federation was the first to notice the pattern. As head of the Council's Infrastructure Committee, she had requested a routine report on staffing levels across critical systems. When her assistant informed her that the human workforce database was showing 0 active personnel, she laughed. Check your console again. There are over 2 billion humans working in Council space. That's just it, Ambassador, her assistant replied, his scales shifting to a worried orange. There were 2 billion. The database shows a cascading series of resignations over the past 3 weeks. Every single human registration has been deactivated. Their living quarters are empty, their personal effects gone. Even the human children have been withdrawn from integrated schools. Krextheta's forearm stopped moving, a sign of extreme distress among her species. That's impossible. Check the transit logs. 2 billion beings can't just disappear. But they had. The transit logs showed a masterpiece of logistical planning. Humans had used their own merchant fleet, larger than anyone had realized, to quietly evacuate their entire population from Council space. They had moved in small groups using legitimate travel permits, taking advantage of the fact that nobody paid attention to human movements because they were always going somewhere to fix something. Get me the Premier, Krextheta commanded, and send immediate queries to all sector administrators. I need to know exactly what positions humans were filling. The reports that came back painted a picture no one had expected. Humans weren't just filling support roles, they were the connective tissue holding the entire galactic infrastructure together. They were the ones who knew how to recalibrate the quantum processors when they drifted out of alignment. They were the ones who could negotiate between species that refused to speak directly to each other. They were the ones who worked the dangerous jobs that other species considered beneath them or too risky. On the luxury world of Paradise 7th, the first sewage treatment plant failed. The Etherian overseer, who had never bothered to learn how the system worked, watched helplessly as waste backed up into the pristine canals. The automated systems could handle basic operations, but when something went wrong, and something always went wrong, it had always been a human who fixed it. In the Andromeda trading post, the Universal Translator network began failing in sections. The base code, written in a human programming language that had been dismissed as primitive, needed constant adjustment to accommodate new dialects and species. Without the human linguists who performed these updates, misunderstandings began cascading through diplomatic channels. Ambassador Chen's final message to the Council had been submitted through proper channels and filed away, unread by most. It was simple. Humanity accepts the Council's classification. As a tertiary support species, we clearly lack the capability to operate within Council space. We wish you success in your future endeavors. The true scope of the catastrophe was only beginning to reveal itself as Part 1 drew to a close, with emergency sessions being called across Council space and the first panicked requests for human assistance going unanswered. The collapse and rebirth 6 months after the human exodus, the Galactic Council chamber bore no resemblance to its former grandeur. The crystalline walls, once pristine, were clouded with microfractures that maintenance bots couldn't properly repair. The atmospheric controllers wheezed, struggling to balance the environmental needs of multiple species without the constant fine-tuning they had once received. Half the translator nodes were offline, forcing representatives to rely on expensive personal translation units. When they worked, Premier Zalthis floated at his position, his once vibrant form now dim with stress patterns. Before him, The holographic displays showed cascading system failures across council space like a plague of red dots spreading across the galaxy map. The Zephyrin crisis has entered its third week, reported Administrator Veltang, her feathers molting from anxiety. Without human logistics coordinators, the cargo routing system has completely collapsed. 17 million tons of food supplies are rotting in the wrong sectors while 3 systems face starvation. Reroute the shipments manually, Zalthus commanded, though his voice lacked its usual authority. We've tried, Veltang replied. The human-designed routing algorithm is 30 million lines of code written in 7 different human programming languages. Our best AI systems can't decipher it. The humans apparently built it to be intuitive for their neural patterns, but incomprehensible to anyone else. We've had 12 different species' best programmers working on it. They've managed to crash the system 4 times. The situation in the Zephyrin hub was just one crisis among hundreds. The Medigal production facilities on Corsica Station had shut down when the human bioengineers departed, taking with them the knowledge of how to maintain the delicate bacterial cultures that produce the universal healing compound. Attempts to reverse engineer the process had resulted in toxic sludge that had to be jettisoned into space. What about the security situation? Zalthus asked, though he dreaded the answer. General Cormag of the warrior caste stood, his battle scars more prominent against his graying hide. It's a disaster. The humans were operating 70% of our early warning systems and managing the patrol schedules for the entire Outer Rim. The Ravager pirates have noticed. They've hit 37 convoys in the past month alone. We've lost more ships in 6 months than in the previous decade. Then send the fleet to eliminate them. Zalthus's form pulsed with anger. With respect, Premier, Cormag growled. Half our ships are operating at reduced capacity. The humans were the only ones who could perform maintenance on the hybrid systems they designed to allow different species technologies to work together. The jump drives they created are failing one by one. We've already lost 3 vessels to hyperspace accidents. The debate that followed was interrupted by an emergency alert. Commander Hexus of Deep Space Monitoring appeared on the central screen, his 8 eyes wide with panic. Premier, we've lost contact with the search fleet. A cold silence fell over the chamber. The search fleet, 100 of the Council's most advanced warships, had been sent to Earth 3 weeks prior with orders to demand the immediate return of all human personnel. It was not a diplomatic mission. It was meant to be a show of force. What do you mean, lost contact? Zalthus demanded. They transmitted their approach to the Sol system, then nothing. No distress signals, no debris, no energy signatures. It's as if they simply ceased to exist. That's impossible. Earth barely has a defense fleet. They're primitives who needed our protection. Hexus manipulated his console, bringing up sensor data. Premier, I'm detecting something strange in the Sol system. There's a massive gravitational anomaly surrounding the entire system. Something we've never seen before. It's like space itself has been folded into a protective barrier. Before anyone could respond, every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. The image that appeared was Admiral Zhang Wei, former human liaison to the Council military. He stood on what appeared to be the bridge of a ship, but one unlike anything in the Council database, sleek, organic-looking, with technology that seemed to bend light around it. Members of the Galactic Council, Zhang began, his tone formal but cold. Your search fleet is unharmed but will remain in temporal stasis within the Neptune Veil. A defensive measure we developed but never revealed. Since you considered human technology primitive, they will be released when we deem it appropriate. This is an act of war. Zalthus raged. No, Zhang replied calmly. War would require us to consider you enemies. We do not. We simply no longer consider you at all. Earth and all human colonies are now protected by the Veil. Any ship attempting to enter our space without permission will be placed in stasis. You wanted independence from humanity. We're granting you exactly that. You can't survive without us. The Vorthek representative snarled. You need our resources, our trade networks. Zhang smiled, an expression that didn't reach his eyes. We needed you to believe that. The truth is, we've been entirely self-sufficient for the past 50 years. Every resource we required from you, we were simultaneously developing alternatives for. Every technology you thought we depended on, we've improved upon in ways you couldn't imagine. We stayed because we believed in cooperation and unity. You've made it clear those concepts only apply when you're dealing with species you consider equals. The transmission began to fade, but Zhang had one final message. Your council space extends to the Sagittarius arm. Beyond that, in what you call the uninhabitable region, we've built something new. The Artemis Federation, a coalition of species that values contribution over biology, innovation over hierarchy. Your former member, the Epsilon Eridani, has already joined us. So have the forgotten colonies you abandoned, the refugee fleet you turned away, and dozens of species you deemed unworthy of council membership. We wish you no ill will, but we will no longer carry you. Goodbye. The screen went dark, leaving the council in stunned silence. In the months that followed, the true scope of humanity's preparations became clear. They hadn't just left. They had spent decades preparing for this moment. Every critical system they managed had hidden redundancies that would function just long enough to prevent immediate catastrophic failure, but not long enough to maintain stability. It was a calculated dismantling that avoided mass casualties while ensuring the Council would feel every consequence of their hubris. Scout ships that ventured beyond the traditional boundaries of Council space sent back incredible reports. The Artemis Federation wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Massive city ships powered by technology that merged human innovation with AI precision floated in the void. Worlds deemed uninhabitable had been transformed into gardens using terraforming techniques the Council had dismissed as human overcomplication. Trade networks flowed with efficiency the Council had never achieved, because they were built on mutual respect rather than hierarchical dominance. The breaking point came when 3 more species announced their intention to leave Council space and petition for membership. In the Artemis Federation, the Denari, master craftsmen who had been classified as secondary support, were the first. The Aquatic Collective, tired of having their ocean worlds treated as resource farms, followed. Even some members of the warrior caste began to defect, recognizing that human military strategy had been the only thing keeping their victories from becoming Pyrrhic defeats. 5 years after the Exodus, a much-diminished Galactic Council sent its first official diplomatic request to the Artemis Federation. The once proud Premier Zalthis had been replaced by a coalition government struggling to maintain basic services. The request was simple. We wish to discuss terms of re-engagement. The response came from President Chen Mei-Lin, elected leader of the Artemis Federation's rotating council. We're willing to establish trade relations and cultural exchanges on a limited basis. However, membership in the Federation requires a fundamental restructuring of your society. The species capability index must be abolished. Every species must have equal representation, and you must contribute to the collective good rather than simply extracting from it. Those terms are reasonable, the new council spokesperson replied. There's one more condition, Chen added. For the first 50 years of this arrangement, the Galactic Council will be classified as a developing civilization under our protection and guidance. You'll have advisory status only in joint ventures. We trust you understand that some societies are naturally suited for leadership, while others need time to develop. The irony was not lost on anyone. In the Grand Federation Hall on New Harmony, a space station larger than most moons, humans worked alongside dozens of species in true partnership. The translation matrices flowed smoothly, the fusion reactors hummed with perfect efficiency, and the hydroponic gardens flourished under careful tending. Every species contributed their unique strengths, and every contribution was valued. A young human engineer named Maria Santos stood beside her Epsilon Eridani colleague, watching through a viewport as another council ship arrived for technical assistance. The AI's crystalline form pulsed with what humans had learned to recognize as amusement. They're learning, the AI observed. Slowly, but they're learning. Maria nodded. Everyone does eventually. The hard way or the easy way, but everyone learns that strength isn't about what you can do alone. It's about what we can build together. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the politics of lesser beings. But in the space between those stars, humanity had proven a fundamental truth. Those who are truly indispensable never need to proclaim it. They simply need to step back and let the universe discover what it's like without them. The Artemis Federation continued to grow, a beacon of cooperative achievement in the darkness. And in the council chambers, now lit by flickering emergency lights and maintained by apprentices struggling to understand human-written manuals. The remaining members finally understood the price of arrogance. The humans hadn't conquered them. They hadn't destroyed them. They had done something far more devastating. They had left them to face the consequences of their own perceived superiority. And in that absence, the galaxy had learned the true value of humanity.